What's up, everyone? Welcome into the stream. We are talking NFL Sunday. My voice is shot right now. We are coming off of the Florida Texas A&M game. It was a great game. I just want to talk about that for just a second. Florida in the fourth quarter with the chance to win the game, goes for it on 4th and 6. They blow it. Blowing it is an understatement. I was so embarrassed to be there as a Florida Gator fan. But anyways, they ended up getting blown out. I think the final score was 34-17. Not a good game from the Gators. Billy Napier probably lost his job. So that being said, guys, my voice is absolutely shot. But, I'm here to give you the plays that I have cooked up, yesterday, yet another winning day for us here at Doink Sports. We are now on a 9-day or an 8-day streak. Let me check that out real quick. Um, let's see. Count. Yeah, we are on a 9-day streak, up 4.87 units from our player props that were given out on Friday. I see Hefty Lefties here. What's going on, my friend? Good luck today. It's gonna be an awesome day. But that being said, I'm gonna be talking today about Steelers, Browns, Cowboys, Panthers, Ravens, Rams, Cardinals, Colts, Saints, Patriots, Jaguars, Seattle, Dolphins, Chargers, and Raiders, Titans. We'll try to get to these later games today. We've got Bengals, Packers, 49ers, Buccaneers, and then Chiefs versus Lions later tonight. We've got 2 Monday Night Football games that we'll be covering tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Central Time. Be sure to tune into that stream. But for now, guys, let's go ahead and start talking about the Pittsburgh versus Cleveland game, a divisional rivalry. The Browns are starting rookie quarterback Dylan Gabriel today. They traded away Joe Flacco. They want to see what they've got in the rookies. I'm very curious to see what this Cleveland Browns offense looks like in week 2. There's a really a lot on the line here for Cleveland, not in the sense of them trying to make a playoff game, right? But whether or not they're going to continue to try to compete in these games going forward. I mean, Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, I've actually mentioned it in a video of mine on my personal social media that the Browns have just wasted this defense. This is one of the best defenses in the league. It has been for years, and yet the Browns offense continues to struggle. Another loss last week, 21-17 versus the Vikings. Dylan Gabriel did not look bad. 19 for 33, no interceptions, 2 touchdowns for 190 yards. It's pretty impressive, if I do say so myself. The Pittsburgh defense, flipping that around, has not looked great at all this season. So far, they've given up on average. Let's look at their last 5 games. They've only played 4. They're coming off the bye from last week. But on average, they're giving up around 275 yards per game. Dylan Gabriel could have a hell of a field day. Now, at home, it's a little different. Now, Carson Wentz, this is not an actual home game. This game was played in, I believe, Ireland a couple weeks ago. But these 3 games right here are what I'm looking at. Sam Darnold came in and rung the Steelers' bell. 295 yards, 2 touchdowns. Drake May had a really good day versus the Steelers. 2 touchdowns, just 1 interception. The Steelers have had a good season so far. The offense has produced. I mean, let's look so far at what they've been able to do. 24, 21, only 17 versus the Seahawks, but 34 versus the Jets. I thought that the Steelers offense would be a lot slower coming into this season. And meanwhile, the Browns they have yet to score 20 points this season. 16 versus the Bengals, 17 versus the Ravens, 13 versus the Packers, 10 and 17 versus the Lions and the Vikings. So my main issue here with trying to judge any of these Cleveland props Yes, the Steelers' defense has not been great so far. As a matter of fact, they're allowing 2 touchdowns in 4 of their 5 games. Dylan Gabriel last week scored the 2 touchdowns for the Vikings through the air, of course. I see this one over 1.5 touchdowns at DraftKings for plus 377, and I'm seeing a 75% hit rate here, and in Dylan Gabriel's first start, I'm seeing that he was able to do it as well. This Cleveland Browns offense has been very active in the receiving game so far this season. They've been spreading the ball around too. I mean, Jerry Jeudy has gotten a fair amount of targets. Isaiah Bond has stepped up ever since he got really active. Remember, he had those legal issues in the offseason. He was late to getting signed to the Browns, I believe. And so he had to be he had to get acclimated to the offense, right? And so now we see that his workload is increasing 4, 6, and 7 targets over his last 3 games. And then Jamari Thrash is a rookie that you might want to watch out for, by the way, with the Cleveland Browns. I think he's really good, but we've yet to see him really step into the Browns offense and thrive. So I think I said he's a rookie, not a rookie. I'm thinking of his Louisville teammate, the running back. Can't think of his name off the top of my head, but I digress. Jamari Thrash, I still think is a talented player and could see some more action today for the Browns. I believe. Let's look at the injury report here. Um, the Browns have at least a couple of receivers that are missing from today. But Jamari Thrash probably in the starting lineup this today. So we'll see what he performs like. Obviously, no lines there for him. David Njoku, of course, a guy who consistently gets 20-ish% of the target share here. So far his first 5 games, if we want to use the Doink Sports tool here to filter that out. He's averaging 4 catches, 39 yards. He scored 1 touchdown so far this season versus the Vikings last week. I think his role, as you can see here, is slightly increasing. 6'5", 7, obviously takes a slump here versus the Lions, but steps up in a big way versus the Vikings last week. Like I said, I'm pretty curious to see what happens here for Cleveland and David Njoku. I think he gets a little more active in the pass game today. His line is sitting at 3.5 catches. And as of right now, I'm not willing to go 4.5 just because the Steelers, outside of their last 2 games versus Hunter Henry and TJ Hawkinson, have been fairly decent against tight ends. So far, the player prop that I think brings the most amount of value here is Dylan Gabriel, actually, over 1.5 touchdowns. I see Hefty Lefty has mentioned that already. Dylan Gabriel, 2 plus touchdowns, too much value. Plus 377 is just an unbelievable amount of value considering that the Pittsburgh defense, right, has allowed this in 3 of their first 4 games. The only game that they didn't was Justin Fields, obviously a major dual threat quarterback. I would not say the same about Dylan Gabriel. So Dylan Gabriel, I'm going to write this down. Over 1.5 passing touchdowns, plus 377 on DraftKings. That's definitely a line that I would take here. There are a couple player props that I like for the Steelers. Let's talk about them. The Steelers are kind of actually not even kind of. They're really, really thin in the wide receiver room. Right now, they're starting, I believe. Obviously, DK is going to play today. Ben Skoranek and Scotty Miller are going to be playing today. And as you can see here, Scotty Miller and Ben Skoranek have a combined 1 catch and a combined 3 targets on the entire season. So my line here that I'm going to be looking at, DK Metcalf over 4.5 receptions. The Browns have actually given this up in 3 of their 5 games to start this season. DK only has done this in 1 game so far this season, but I thoroughly believe that the target share for him today is going to be there. There's no way that the Steelers aren't going to target him with guys like Calvin Austin missing today's game. And then the other guy that I think is going to have a good day as well is Jonnu Smith, over 3.5 catches. This is Arthur Smith's favorite target from anywhere that he's ever been. They traded for him in the offseason. Right now, you can find that plus 145 using Hard Rock. I got it at plus 150 using FanDuel. If you really wanna be crazy and you wanna go 4.5 catches, I wouldn't hate that either. I mean, the Browns defense, of course, has been great so far this season, but we see that they were a little weak versus TJ Hawkinson last week, 6 catches, 38 yards. So far, outside of that, they've played Laporta, Tucker Kraft, Mark Andrews, and Noah Fant, and they've done a pretty good job against them. So I think that Jonnu Smith is gonna get somewhere in the range of 4 to 5 targets today, and I definitely think he catches at least 4 of them. So I think over 3.5 receptions is a lot of value here. Like I said, I got that plus 150 via FanDuel. So my 3 plays for this game are DK Metcalf over 4.5 receptions, Jonnu Smith over 3.5 receptions, and Dylan Gabriel over 1.5 passing touchdowns. There's just a tremendous amount of value there. We're talking a potential of over plus 600 combined for the 3 that would take care of a fat chunk of the plays that I've got today. As a matter of fact, let me count them up real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So I got 20 plays. That would cover almost a third of the plays with just 3 picks. That's what we're looking for here with value. We're looking at straights. We're looking at not necessarily long shots, but things that make sense. And I think that Dylan Gabriel getting 2 passing touchdowns today with how good Kevin Stefanski is, I absolutely think that's a good play considering the value. Would Dylan Gabriel going under that line surprise me? Absolutely not. He's a rookie, but the fact that it's plus 377, you really can't find that anywhere. Let's look at Aaron Rodgers right now, his line for over 1.5 touchdowns, right? I mean, obviously, Aaron Rodgers, Dylan Gabriel, 2 different stratospheres, but Aaron Rodgers over under 1.5 touchdowns, according to a major sports book, is plus 125, right? So you're getting triple the amount of value there from Dylan Gabriel. So I like that. And the Steelers defense has been awful so far this year versus the past. So like that prop a lot. Those are my 3 props for this game. Let's move into the Dallas Panthers game. Let's talk about that one a little bit. So recently, both offenses for the Panthers and the Cowboys, especially the Cowboys, have been rolling, right? In the last 4 weeks, 40 points versus the Giants, only 14 versus the Bears, but 40 versus the Packers and 37 versus the Jets. Dak Prescott is playing at an MVP level. I'm really excited to see what he has to offer today because the Panthers defense, in my opinion, has been pretty damn good so far this season. Meanwhile, the Panthers in their last 3 games, they struggled versus the Patriots, but put up 30 versus the Falcons. And they had that gutsy 27-point victory last week at home versus Miami. Now, look at the home versus away performances, right? 16-point loss to Jacksonville on the road, 5-point loss to a 2-3 Arizona Cardinals team on the road, and a 29-point blowout loss on the road. But at home, 30-point victory versus a pretty good Falcons team, right? And then a 3-point victory, a huge come from behind victory versus the Dolphins last week. This is where I think the Panthers thrive at home. I got Bet Voyage here, asking about Alvin Kamara. I'll actually cover that game next after this Cowboys-Panthers game, because I got a couple props there to talk about. But let's continue here with the Dallas versus Panthers storyline here. I I like both of these offenses a lot, whether they're on the road or at home, right? The Cowboys have performed very strongly so far this season. Even that game versus the Eagles, right? The 20 points that they scored were all in rhythm. And at the end of that game, the weather delay just threw everything off. And if you don't believe me, the Eagles also scored 21 points before the weather delay. They only scored 3 after that. That was the entire rest of the game. So I think this Cowboys offense has been rolling regardless of what's going on. The Panthers defense versus the pass has been damn good so far this season. On average, they're allowing 205 yards in the air. They're allowing only 1.4 passing touchdowns and point 0.8 interceptions. That's better than or that's less than a 2-to-1 pass to touchdown ratio or passing touchdown to interception ratio. Meanwhile, Dak, like I said, playing at an MVP level, 3 interceptions, but a combined 10 touchdowns, 10-3. That's pretty damn good. That's a over 3-to-1 passing touchdowns to interception ratio. And he's been slinging the rock. He's averaging 271 yards in the air, even with CeeDee Lamb out. He has been playing at a really high level. I think his line at 245 and mixed with that 205, that has me worried, quite frankly. But the lines that I do like today, for this game are actually all Panthers centric. Yes, the Cowboys offense is going to play well, in my opinion, but their lines reflect that, right? We don't know what the Cowboys are going to look like compared to their actual lines here, right? 245, that's well below Dak's average, but it's also well above the Panthers' average. Now, they haven't really played top-tier quarterback talent so far this season. Arguably, the best quarterback that they played was Trevor Lawrence in week 1. Maybe you could argue Tua last week, who had kind of a field day. Let's take a look at the injury report and see who's out. The Cowboys, of course, missing Tyler Booker, their rookie starting guard. CeeDee Lamb is out. For the Panthers, you've got a lot of questionables here. Jatavian Sanders, Chau Smith-Wade, Mike Jackson, Jalen Coker, uh, I think his name is a Caleb Evans. Chuba Hubbard is out. Taylor Moton is out. Tershawn Wharton is out. There's a lot here to talk about. Kevontae Turpin is out for the Cowboys. And then who's questionable? Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs. They really haven't looked the same since coming off of their significant injuries over the last couple of years. Miles Sanders is out. Marshawn Keelan is questionable. Tyler Smith is questionable. So this is a pretty banged up Cowboys team right now, dealing with a good amount of injuries. Now, I imagine probably 80% of those guys who are questionable are going to play. The Panthers, on the other end, not really missing that many defensive players. So I think the Cowboys do well offensively, but not to the point that I would say they're great. Now, one prop that I do like here for this game is I like Javonte Williams, and I like him over ah, actually, I take that back. I don't know what the Panthers are gonna look like here. If I had to guess, the Cow well, this is my educated guess, right? I'm pretty confident in the rest of my plays. I kinda like Javonte Williams over 17.5, but there's just not enough plus money value there. This is plus 109 at Pinnacle, but looking at any major book, right, you're not getting any plus value. I'm really starting to lean into plus value plays. If I had to go with anything, the line here at probably plus no, that's too much. The Panthers, yeah, I'm gonna stick away from Cowboys props. The lines are just too inflated right now for me to find real value here. I've already plugged in some value here for the Panthers. So, first Panthers prop that I like is Bryce Young over 229.5 passing yards. Now, as you can see here, he's only done that in one game. And so that has you questioning, Pleasant, why would you pick a play, an alternate play, albeit that has over 229.5 at plus 160, right? You think that's questionable to say the least. Well, this Cowboys defense has been atrocious versus the pass. Not to mention, another reason why these pass yards continue to increase is because the Cowboys are trying to run up the score, right? In the Jets game, when it's a 30-point blowout, Justin Fields at halftime, I believe, had 100 passing yards. But he comes out in the second half because they have to do so much catch up, and he passes the ball an absolute just a ton, right? He gets 183 passing yards in the second half. That's kind of what I'm figuring here for Bryce Young. I think 160 is a lot of value over 229.5. So that's the line I'm looking for. If you really want to go for something crazy, go for over 249.5. That's plus 275, but you're asking for 20 extra yards and you're getting about, I think, roughly 115 points in value. It seems worth it to me, but I'm going to play a little bit safe and go over 229 and a half plus 160 right here. So to pair with that, I think that the Panthers are going to have to pass the ball a good amount today. Does it look like it's going to rain, by the way? Partly cloudy, but no early afternoon showers projected so far today. Obviously, I think the weather plays in to whether or not teams pass the ball. Rico Dowdle, by the way, field day last week, and his lines are starting to reflect that. Chuba Hubbard being out obviously impacts that as well. But I'm looking here at Ted McMillan, right? He's averaged around 5 catches per game. His line is inflated at 5.5 catches. I don't like that line at all, even though the Cowboys are allowing it 60% of the time. It's just hopping over the edge. Where I do see value here is Xavier Legette over 3.5. Now, yes, he has not had the receptions or the targets that he had. Actually, I take that back. He just hasn't had the receptions. But in his games that he's playing healthy, he's getting the targets 7 and 8 versus the Jags and the Cardinals. Didn't come up with the catches here. Seems to me that he's going to be healthy this game. He's getting a good amount of the red zone targets here for the Panthers. So I'm actually pairing two props here. I think Bryce Young's going to have to pass the ball today because the Cowboys are going to put up points. And therefore, I think he's going to have to pass the ball around. I think Ted McMillan is going to get covered by Diggs or Bland. Xavier Legette is not going to get much attention. I like him over 3.5 here. He did that last year in his last game versus the Buccaneers. He's yet to do it this season, but the Cowboys have been fairly weak in the pass game here. Wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, combined catches, 9.5 catches per game. Ted McMillan averages 4 or 5. And so I think the rest go to Xavier Legette here. I think he can get 4 at plus 210. That's a lot of value. And then I also like him anytime touchdown as well. He is the leading receiver in the red zone target share, 24% basically. Looking at Ted McMillan, who gets, I believe, 16% of that, has not cut a touchdown pass all year. He's plus 152. So flipping that value there and doubling it for a guy who has caught a touchdown pass, underdogs got him at plus 297. Good amount of value there, in my opinion. So Xavier Legette, anytime touchdown. Xavier Legette over 3.5 receptions. Bryce Young over 229.5 passing yards. Those are the three props that I like for this game. Now, for the Saints game, let's talk about that. Saints Patriots. First up, we're going to look at the injury report. New England is a 3.5 point favorite. In my opinion, New Orleans is probably the Giants are up there, but the Saints just beat the Giants. So I have to say, the Saints look like the best 1 or 2 win team so far this season. They've been competitive in almost every single game. They did get blown out versus the Seahawks on the road, but at home, I like the Saints a lot. Let's look at this injury report. So for the Saints, Kamara is questionable. He was a limited participant in practice just 2 days ago before this game, dealing with an ankle injury. And not to mention, so Bet Voyage, this is kind of getting to your question. We've seen Kamara's role be reduced in this Saints offense. Kendre Miller, who is the backup running back there for New Orleans, has been there now for a year or two, has started to look at his workload, right? 5, 5, 7, 11, and 10. And in the receiving game, he's gotten 4 receptions. So he's averaging around 8 or 9 touches a game. And in the last couple of games, he's averaging around 11 or 12 touches a game. That says a lot to me, considering that we're looking at Kamara here and we see 11, 21, 18, down to 15, down to just 8 last week. However, like I said, dealing with an injury. So it's a little hard to speculate on what Kamara's role looks like for the future without being able to clarify what Kamara's role is considering his injury. Kamara has been in this league since 2017. This is year 8 for him. Obviously, the lifetime or the life table on a running back is well below 8 years. I'm really surprised that he's been able to make it this far. I think a lot of that has to do with his ability to affect the pass game, right? We see here he averages 3 catches a game. That's probably top 10 in the league right now. 3.4 catches per game is just a lot for a running back without being a dedicated receiving back like a Justice Hill. Kamara can do both. But I do think that we see his workload decrease. If you're thinking about his player props and or his fantasy implications, I think that's the big problem that we see right now for Kamara. Last week, Kendre Miller not only was in there on early downs, but we saw him in there on big time third downs. Now in the red zone, Kamara still, I believe, let's look at red zone target or red zone rush share. Kamara still is by far the red zone back. So if you're thinking anytime touchdown, I'd be leaning Kamara here, even though plus 170, if you want to look at a major book here, not Novig, plus 160 with FanDuel, that's not a lot of value. As a matter of fact, I didn't take a Kamara prop today. The props that I did take, there are three. No, sorry, I'm doing mental math. 2 props that I like in this game. Number 1, I'm looking at Kamara. He gets about 60-ish percent. Well, now that's 60. That actually is a vast overestimation. He gets about 45 to 50% of the red zone touches, right? Because in the red zone, the Saints are passing 60% of the time. They're rushing 40% of the time. He's getting 44% of that 40%. So that's about 20 it's less than 20, about 19-ish percent of the red zone touches through the run game. And then through the pass game, he's averaging about 22% off of 59. So, oh man, that's about 10. So he's averaging somewhere in the range of 30% of the red zone target share, right? That's the mental math that I've just done. His value is at plus 170. Chris Olave, he's averaging 26% of that 59, right? So that's roughly 15-ish percent of the red zone target share. His value is at 244. Juwan Johnson is averaging 22% of this 59.1. So that's roughly 10 to 12%, I believe, if I can do math in my head off the top. And he's at plus 355. So he gets about 4% less of the red zone target share than Olave, has just as many touchdowns as Olave this season, yet his value is over 100 points more in value. He was a big red zone target for them last year. Let's look at 2024. Juwan Johnson, 15%. That's pretty damn good considering that he wasn't a major factor in the pass game overall or holistically. So this season, we see his role has increased. I think that he gets into the end zone today. The Saints targeted him last week, and it was just not a great pass from Spencer Rattler. So I like his value here at plus 290. Let's look at what Chris Olave is at a major book. Plus 210. I like both of those. I also like a Kamara anytime touchdown, but the play that I'm going with here is Juwan Johnson. I like the damn near 300 plus value. Um, let's see here. I just saw something from the Discord about Jags versus Panthers. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. We've got roughly about 30-ish minutes left in this stream. And then I'm going to go grab some delicious food and get ready to watch some NFL football. Week 6 is here. The NFL has been great this season. I'm super excited to see some teams, underdog teams, doing well. So my number 1 play here is Juwan Johnson, anytime touchdown, plus 290 using DraftKings. And then next up, Hunter Henry has a plus 195 value here, and he's getting 37% of the red zone target share. And out of everyone on this Patriots team, they are giving the ball to Hunter Henry by far the most, and he scored the most touchdowns out of any Patriot. Not to mention, The Saints defense has been pretty damn good this year. Last week, forcing 5 turnovers against the Giants, but their weakest spot has been versus tight ends. Last week alone, Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger had a combined 8 catches for over, I think, 100 yards, and Theo Johnson caught 2 touchdowns in the red zone. The Patriots have the film, right? They see tight ends are a major weak spot for this Saints defense. As you could see, the green means that it's weak for the Saints and strong for the Patriots. The red shows that it's good for the Saints and bad for the Patriots. They're already a heavy tight end passing team. So I think plus 195 is great value at FanDuel for an anytime touchdown. Those are my 2 plays for this game. Let's continue and talk about this Ravens Rams game. I'm going to have to speed up just a little bit because we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games to talk about. 5 games to talk about, I believe. So let's hop in to the Rams versus Ravens game. Right now, as it sits, we have a potential blowout on our hands. And so I'm factoring in the fact that I do not think that the Rams starters are going to play this whole game. And I'm thinking Blake Corum is going to have a day. Right? He has also seen a kind of increase in touches over the last couple of weeks. Did not play versus the 49ers near as much as I thought that he would, but that's a divisional rivalry where it really, really matters. This is a non-conference matchup where, as you can see here, versus a non-conference team here in Indiana, or Indianapolis, excuse me. He had 9 carries here versus Tennessee. He had 5 carries. And you can see the line reflects this, right? Despite the fact that he's averaging 4.8, his line is at 6.5 because of 2 things. This is an out of conference matchup. So you might not want to play your starters the whole time because is it worth getting a starter injured over a game that's really not going to affect your overall playoff picture in conference? And number 2, I think this game's going to be a blowout, and so does Vegas. So the line that I'm actually going to take here is when he does get touches, right? We see that the yards start to come. This game versus the Colts, that Colts run defense is elite. The same cannot be said for this Baltimore run defense. It is atrocious. So I'm going to take an alt line here, and I'm going to go over 39.5 rushing yards. As a matter of fact, hang on one second. Let me pull back here. Over 39.5 rushing yards is plus 300 using Hard Rock. I got that plus 270, but I'm going to go punch that in at plus 300 using Hard Rock. I think there's a tremendous amount of value in that. We see in 2 of his 4 games so far this season, he has gotten that. One of them versus an out of conference team, like I was talking about, the Tennessee Titans. This is going to be, I think, a game that's not competitive. So he's going to get a fair amount of playing time. Meanwhile, the Ravens defense, if we go look at touchdowns so we could see their team statistics, they're 28th in the league in rush yards per game given up to running backs. That's horrific. So I think they're obviously missing their all-pro defensive tackle. Cannot pronounce his name to save my life, so I'm not even going to try. But he is a very valuable piece. Not to mention, let's look at this Ravens defense. Let's look at the injuries for today's game. Okay. Roquan Smith out. Devontae Walker, he's off. He's an offensive player. Like I think wide receiver 4 or 5. He's out. Chidobe Awuzie, he's out. Zay Flowers is questionable. I believe he's going to play. Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey have been dealing with injuries. Lamar is out. Emory Jones Jr. is out. Ben Cleveland has done some personal stuff over this week. So the Ravens kind of look checked out, to be honest. They're 1-4. Playoff hopes are pretty much in the toilet unless Lamar can somehow make a miracle comeback after the bye week next week. But like I said, Blake Corum over 39.5. So this is going to be a game where I think the Rams take the lead early. That's going to force Baltimore to pass. The Ravens receiving core has just never been good in the Lamar Jackson era. and I still don't think they're great. Zay Flowers, like I said, dealing with an injury. Will he be 100% today? I'm not sure. To say that he's gonna catch over 4.5 is a bit of a stretch. He's done that in 4 of his 5 games. The Rams have allowed this in 3 of their last 5. It's definitely possible, but I don't see a lot of value here, plus 102. There's 2 plays that I like for this Ravens offense. Mark Andrews has started to see an increase in his workload. Now, last week versus the Texans, that was a game that was an absolute blowout. I don't think that the Ravens, I believe they lost, uh, let's see, 44-10. I don't think it's gonna be 44-10. I think it's somewhere gonna be somewhere along the lines of this 37-20 game, versus the Chiefs. So, Mark Andrews is gonna be on the field for a significantly longer portion than he was last week, and so that's why I like his alt yards here over 39.5. He's probably the best target for Cooper Rush. Backup quarterbacks love relying on their tight ends. Over 39.5 plus 240 from Hard Rock. I believe FanDuel, if we want to track this up and take a look, FanDuel has it at plus 235. I had it at FanDuel at plus 240. So it's gone down in value a little bit, but that tells me that somebody's put a little bit of money on it. So looking at the anytime touchdowns, okay, I don't love any of the value here that I see from Kyron Williams, Puka Nakua, Devontae Adams. I like the value of Tyler Higbee, but he only gets 10% of the red zone target share. That's quite frankly not enough for me to be convinced, not to mention hasn't cut a touchdown pass all season long. His backup teammate here, Davis Allen, is at plus 1,000. He's already caught, I believe, 2 touchdowns so far this season. So that's a more viable option, in my opinion, because it's plus 1,000. But overall, we're going to talk about the last anytime touchdown prop that I have for this game is Mark Andrews plus 364 using Underdog Sports here. Let's see, what did I get him at? I got him at plus 400 using DraftKings. DraftKings has dropped that value all the way down to plus 360 since I found it earlier this morning. He gets 30% of the red zone target share. He scores the most touchdowns in the receiving game by far out of any Raven. I think if the Ravens are going to put up a few points, which I think that they could throw up a couple touchdowns, I think one of those will be at the hands of Mark Andrews. I also don't hate his value here at plus 4,000 for 2 touchdowns, but plus 4,000, I mean, my God, is that a long shot? But looking at some of these other over 2 touchdowns here, Zay Flowers at plus 2,000. Quite frankly, we've been having a hell of a day here at doinksports.com. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and stream this up for you real quick. Give me one moment. I want to talk to you about what has gone on over the last, I believe, 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, I think. Let me pull up the stream here for you guys so I can tell you what's going on here. So we've got, let's see, 864.71 format, paint it up. Okay. Let's go here. We are going to stop the screen share. Let's see if we can actually do that. Stop screen share, screen share. Here we go. Guys, I have been on fire recently. We are now on day number 10 of a potential increase in units here. This is doing all straight bets, just single lines. We're looking for plus value in the vast majority of these plays, and I have found a great number of them. I'm hitting right now at about a 53% clip, 156 correct picks, 137 incorrect picks. But what matters here is that continuously, right? We try to have better days than we do bad. So far this year, we have had, let's see, let's count this up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've had 15 winning days and 7 losing days. So That's a great line that we're looking at here. In the last 2.5 weeks, we're over 44 units positive, and that's because of this doinksports.com platform, guys. Let me go ahead and tell you guys all about it. Like you've been seeing on this stream so far today, doinksports.com is a probably the best way that I have seen to educate and leverage yourself for every play that you make. What do I mean by educate, right? Well, off the top of my head, I don't know what Mark Andrews' red zone target share is, right? That's not a stat that you can look up on ESPN. You can find it here at doinksports.com. And then the second part about this is leveraging. So I love Mark Andrews anytime touchdown. Let's say I wanted to take him and I'm using the Fanatic Sportsbook. Okay. But I also have access to Underdog, but I just take him on Fanatics because I'm just looking for a quick play. I'm not trying to do that much work here. Well, I took him at plus 345. I could have taken him at plus 364 using Underdog, right? That's 19 points in value. And while that doesn't sound like a lot, that's 19 cents to your dollar, $1.90 for every 10 that you spend, $19 for every 100 that you spend, and $190 for every 1,000 that you spend. Those points matter. You have to find the best value for your plays. And so I found Mark Andrews here. I had him at plus 400 earlier. Sorry that I wasn't able to get that out earlier, but plus 364, plus 360 using DraftKings or Underdog. I think that's still a really good amount of value. And as a matter of fact, we're going to roll the dice. This is the first ever dice roll that I've done. And we're going to go Mark Andrews over 1.5 touchdowns here, plus 4,000 out of every other prop here for the Ravens over 2 touchdowns. This one brings the most amount of value. I'm going to write that down. And that's just because I'm confident that the rest of these plays are going to have us at least over plus 6, maybe even 7 units. And so if this one hits, 40 units would be tremendous, right? But losing one off that value, not that big of a deal in my opinion. And even if we have a losing day today, overall, from the record that I just showed you, we're up 44 units in the last 2.5 weeks. We've got a little money to play for. So Mark Andrews over 1.5 pass or receiving touchdowns plus 4,000 using FanDuel. We're going to plug that in. That's a very long shot play. I like it a lot. Let's see. Let's look at Mark Andrews' game log. Let's find out when's the last time he caught 2 touchdowns in a single game. He just did it versus Detroit. He did it versus the Lions, right? Very possible he can do it again. He did it in 2024, literally last year in October, almost a year ago today versus Tampa Bay. Then in 2023, he did it versus the Lions. He did it versus the Browns. And then in 2022, he did it versus the Patriots. So while this, yes, is a long shot play, I do believe that we have the value here to roll with it. I like Mark Andrews in the red zone. He's a big time threat. Looking at holistically the Rams defense, they have been, I believe, fairly decent against tight ends, but not elite to say the least. They have been pretty damn good against wide receivers in the red zone. So I think that the Ravens are going to try to capitalize off this and get Mark Andrews involved. Isaiah Likely is back for the Ravens. He could be a red zone factor. As of right now, has not received a red zone target, but he's only played in 2 games. He could absolutely become a red zone target today. I think plus 600 is a good amount of value, but overall, I've got Mark Andrews anytime touchdown, Mark Andrews over 39.5 receiving yards, and Blake Corum over 39.5 rushing yards. Guys, those are my 3 props for this game. Let's talk about Cardinals versus Colts here. Cardinals versus Colts, there are 4 plays that I like. I'm actually very confident in this game. I've done a great amount of research on this Cardinals versus Colts game. This Cardinals team is not nearly as bad as their record shows. So many different things have gone against them, gone against their favor. A lot of fluky stuff versus the Seahawks and especially versus the Titans. I love Cardinals plus 8.5, not an official play, just because I'm looking for some bigger plus value plays here. Team props wise, the Colts defense has been fairly okay so far this season. They've let up a good amount of points to some teams. Raiders, they shut them down. Dolphins, they shut them down. But they played a decent offense in Denver and they let up 29. They played the Titans, and Cam Ward ended up having an okay day towards the end, and they played the Rams on the road, and they didn't look great defensively. Matthew Stafford, I think, had 380 passing yards, ended up connecting with Tutu Atwell on that 80-yard touchdown to win the game. Like I said, I think this Cardinals offense is not that bad. They have just gone up against some gauntlet defenses. I think the Titans defense is not terrible. The Cardinals scored 21 points in that game very early, took their foot off the gas there. And then, like I said, a ton of fluky stuff happens there towards the end of the game. So alt play first up. I like the Cardinals over 23.5 points in this game. Have only done it once versus the Panthers, but the Colts have allowed this in 2 of their 5 games. Oh, Pascal Wagers dropping a bomb on me. Let's confirm this. Kyler Murray is officially inactive today as of 24 minutes ago from USA Today. Pascal Wagers, very clutch. Ladies and gentlemen, ignore that prop. We are taking it away. We will not be advertising that one today. So Cardinals over 23.5 points is chalked. Kyler Murray announced out just 20 minutes ago after I started the stream. Haven't been able to check out the injury report since I started. So great info there from Pascal Wagers. Love that. So that actually reinforces my second prop here for today. And the lines have probably changed. Michael Carter, 18 carries, 51 yards last week. I fully expect him to be somewhere in that line yet again so far from what I've seen with him in the Cardinals offense, especially with Kyler Murray out today. Over 13.5 carries. I'll be taking that. That is my first prop. I think this game is going to end up being a blowout. So I don't think the Cardinals are going to be trying to pass the ball that much. So Michael Carter, over 13.5 carries, plus 290. And that's Fanatics. I'm sorry, I'm running that down, guys. Just making sure. Okay. Here we go. The other prop that I have, alt line here, Michael Carter is only at 25.5 rushing yards. I'm taking that all the way up, especially with the Kyler Murray news, to 39.5, I believe. Let me make sure. I've got that at 49.5, plus 425. And I actually got that earlier at plus 230. I'm wondering what I'm missing here, everyone, outside of the fact. See, Underdog here has it at plus 230 for 44.5. I'm very curious to what I'm missing here. So over 49.5 plus 425 using Caesars. That is absolutely nuts. I'm going to be taking that value all day, every day. I'm going to go ahead and change my book here to make sure I've got the right ones plugged in. Plus 425. Unbelievable amount of value here. Amari DeMarcado, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Let me check out the Cardinals depth chart to make sure I'm not missing out on anything here. Whenever you see these sort of suspicious line here, you kind of question yourself, right? So Michael Carter, Bam Knight, who is I actually don't even know who Bam Knight is, a third-year player out of NC State. He has a total 4 carries so far this season. He had 4 versus the Titans last week. Curious to see what that looks like here. But anyways, Michael Carter versus the Titans, 18 carries. I think his value here at over 49 and a half and anytime touchdown for him is now plus 310. I'm taking that as well. And then I'm doing away with my Trey McBride anytime touchdown. Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback here. He actually had to fill in for Kyler Murray a few times this season. Did not look great. Um, I think it was very temporary. I think Kyler Murray got dinged up in this Chargers game, and then dinged up again in the Titans game. Jacoby Brissett has really not been a good starter in the league for the last 5 or so years. So I think they're going to be running the ball a ton. So plug these quickly. There's a ton of value here on Michael Carter, who I think will continue to get the lion's share of the carries here. And the Colts' run defense has not been elite so far this season. Looking at them holistically, they are 15th, 15th in the league in rushing yards allowed per game. Now, I believe the Cardinals' offensive line is fairly healthy. I don't hate their offensive line either. Paris Johnson Jr. I think is really good. Will Hernandez, in my opinion, is really good. Jonah Williams is still a good right tackle. So I expect them to run the ball a ton here. So hammer Michael Carter, anytime touchdown, over 49 and a half and over 13 and a half rush attempts. That combined is almost plus 1,000 in value there. So those are all of the props here that I like for Cardinals versus Colts. Let's move on. We'll talk about Jags versus Seahawks. Now, I think this is a nuts game that the Jags are underdogs at home. They're 4-1. Now, that off the top is not enough. But what really hammers this in for me is the fact that this Seattle Seahawks team defensively is unbelievably banged up. Their rookie out of South Carolina has been banged up. He looks like he's going to play. Derek Hall is out. Julian Love, doubtful. Devon Witherspoon, doubtful. Reek Woolen, out. And this Jags offense doesn't have anyone out for today. Now, Robert Hainsey is doubtful for today. He was a limited participant in practice just a couple days ago. I believe he's going to be a game time decision based off of all the tweets that I've seen, but yet to be confirmed here. There are quite a few props. Actually, not even quite a few. There's a couple props that I like for this game. AJ Barner has been the red zone threat here for the Seahawks. The Jags, the weakest part of the receiving game so far this season, has come to running backs and to tight ends. But looking at the anytime touchdown lines, right? Kenneth Walker plus 126 and Zach Charbonnet plus 150. You look at them at big books, they're probably, let's check out a big book here. Let's go to FanDuel has got him plus 120. So, I mean, damn near even odds here for an anytime touchdown for him. And then Zach Charbonnet, if we look at an anytime touchdown for him, plus 135, plus 140 via Fanatics. AJ Barner, even though he's the highest scoring player on the team, is plus 300 for an anytime touchdown. I like that play a lot. Cooper Kupp, I called him for an anytime touchdown, I believe, last week, and he didn't show up. So I don't like that at all. I see James Hill thrown in the chat. Rattler passing yards, a sneaky pick. I talked about the Patriots Saints just a minute ago. Hunter Henry could go over again. I'll revisit that Patriots game and I'll give you my take on that. But for right now, let's continue to talk about this. AJ Barner, largest red zone target share. He at least gets one target a game in the red zone. He's scored 4 touchdowns in 5 games. There's no other Seahawk in the receiving game that has done this yet. Zach Charbonnet is the only other player. I think he scored, let's take a look. He scored 3 touchdowns so far this season. So AJ Barner, the leading touchdown getter for the Seahawks, yet his value is better than Jackson Smith-Njigba, Kenneth Walker, and Zach Charbonnet. I like that a lot. Plus 300 is a good line to me. The Seahawks run the ball a significant more amount than passing in the red zone, but the Jags so far this season have been elite against stopping the run. fourth in the league in touchdowns given up to running backs, fourth in the league in rush yards given up to running backs, period. So I like that a lot. That's what I'm looking like here. Let's go back to player props and let's talk about this Jags offense. There is, I believe, one prop. Let me double check my little iPad here. Um, Actually, there's no player prop that I have here for the Jags, but I see James is throwing in Trevor Lawrence rushing yards. Let's go take a look at that and see what we think. Trevor Lawrence rushing yards over under 18 and a half. That's a fair amount. I think my problem with that is, James, is number one, we see that the Cardinals have got, or Kyler Murray got that over on 41, right? Some other players, Brock Purdy's at 17, Baker Mayfield's here at 15. While I don't doubt that Trevor Lawrence is more than capable of getting that 18 and a half, I would be looking for value here. I see 24 and a half is plus 164. I don't hate it. I just think versus that Kansas City team, Trevor Lawrence ran the ball in that game more often than not because they're very outside pressure heavy and Lawrence escaped up the middle. Whereas the Seahawks are actually the inverse. They bring pressure up the middle and the Trevor Lawrence would have to scramble out. And I don't think that T Law has that athletic ability or he has athletic ability, but not that great. But what I do like in this game is the Jaguars minus 4.5. I think that this Seattle team, coming off a very tough loss to Tampa, has to travel all the way across the country to Jacksonville with, like I said, a very banged up team. So I like that prop a lot. I think this is the one to go with minus 4.5. You can get that. Let's see. Minus 4.5. Oh, that's Seahawks plus 4.5. Let's look at the Jags. Minus 4.5 plus 200. I got it at plus 210. I think there's a great amount of value in this. The Jags have been rolling so far this season. They have some great victories so far this year versus the Panthers, who have looked a lot better over the last few weeks. The Texans, who have looked way better in the last couple of weeks. Gutsy win versus the banged up 49ers and a phenomenal Monday Night Football win versus the Chiefs, 31-28. That's kind of what I'm figuring. Somewhere in this range of like 27-20 is my score prediction for this game. So minus 4.5 is the play to go here for me. Now, I actually don't have enough time to continue talking about my props. Three things that I'm going to do. Number one, actually, I promised James that I'd go back and look at this Saints game. So Hunter Henry receiving yards, Spencer Rattler passing yard. Let's go take a look at that. So first up, we've got Hunter Henry receiving yards. Excuse me, not pass yards. I'm having a stroke here. Let's look at this. Okay, Hunter Henry receiving yards on the road. Let's see, on the road for the Patriots, he hasn't gotten a ton of targets in those games. A combined, I believe, 7 targets compared to at home. He's getting on average, 7 or 8 targets. His over under receiving yards at 41.5. I don't hate it. I, I I definitely would consider taking that at over 41.5. But to get the value that I'm looking for here at over 59.5, the Saints haven't been great against tight ends, but they haven't been that bad. I think Diggs has also, as we could see here on wide receiver one, has taken over that number one target in the last few weeks, averaging over 40% of the target share in the last couple weeks. I think he'll continue to get that. And then last but not least, Spencer Rattler passing yards. Now this one I actually love. Spencer Rattler has been, quite frankly, tremendous so far this season. 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's averaging 200 yards a game. The Patriots are giving up 241. I would actually take this alt play over 229.5 plus 137. He has yet to do that this season. I think the Patriots are going to go up in this game. This 3.5 line is pretty low. I think it's this low because the Saints played out of their minds last week and still kept it close versus the Giants. So I like that over 229.5. He's yet to do that so far this season. The Patriots have given this up in 3 of their games, and 2 of those came on the road. So I like that. Spencer, actually, let's plug this. Let's plug this instead. I'm trying to audible on you guys. 37. I'll come back to this. I'm not going to plug it in yet and make it completely official. Let me do the last 3 things here. Number 1, guys, check me out on social media at Plaisant, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I talk college football, NBA, NFL. Those are the 3 places that I do it at. Be sure to check me out. I got a lot of great takes, in my opinion, a little biased, obviously. Number 2, check out doinksports.com. Doinksports.com is the place to educate and leverage yourself before you place any wagers. I would be remiss, or I would be doing you a disservice by not advertising this to you. I think it's a great place to find value. I have found a tremendous amount of value over the last 2 months. I'm up over 48 units. So that all being said, thank you guys for tuning into the stream. Real quick recap as I close this out. Let's see. Here we go. These are the official plays that I've got. DK Metcalf, over 4.5 receptions. Jonnu Smith, over 3.5 receptions. Bryce Young, over 229.5 passing yards. Xavier Legette, over 3.5 receptions. Xavier Legette, anytime touchdown. Blake Corum, over 39.5 rush yards. Mark Andrews, over 39.5 receiving yards. Mark Andrews, anytime touchdown. Long shot Cuban missile type play. Mark Andrews, over 1.5 anytime touchdowns. Continuing, Michael Carter, over 49.5 rush yards. Michael Carter, anytime touchdown. Michael Carter, over 13.5 rush attempts. I already had all of these plays, but now with Kyler Murray's injury, I think the Cardinals absolutely dedicate themselves to the run game. Hunter Henry, anytime touchdown. Juwan Johnson, anytime touchdown. Jaguars, -4.5. AJ Barner, anytime touchdown. Here are the ones that I didn't touch on, but I'm going to, just so you have these at the end here. Hassan Haskins, running back 1 for the Chargers. They're not going to let Omarion Hampton's injury stop their identity. They like to run. Over 59.5 rush yards. Justin Herbert, I like him for an anytime touchdown. That's a bit of a long shot, +380. And then I like a few more here. Cam Ward, over 239.5 passing yards, +308. Tons of value there. Dylan Gabriel, over 1.5 passing touchdowns, +377. And like I said, we've been doing really well. I'm rolling the dice here a little bit. I believe that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 plays. 20 plays, and a lot of them are dice rolls, but like I said, we've been doing great so far this season, and I'd like to keep it going and maybe even double the units here if Mark Andrews can catch 2 touchdowns. So that being said, guys, that's going to do it for this stream.